Hey guys, welcome to Dragon's Voice podcast, and I have got a very special guest here today with flipping neck. The records are it's a one big shopping list, and this man has done it all. He's won the Welsh Cup, he's won the Welsh Premier League title, he's done Golden Boot, he's gone to Norway, won the league there, he's played for 15 clubs. He's a Welsh Premier League Hall of Famer. It's none other than Marc Lloyd Williams. Marc, how are you doing, pal?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Enjoying a bit of best fight on the football.
Are you keeping in this lockdown, pal?
Yeah, it's a bit different, isn't it? But, it should be close season by now, and it's just a shame that, the football season didn't get to finish, especially for the Welsh Premier League clubs. So I think it would have been an exciting end to the season with TNS and Connors Key, but, what's happened, and people just got to get on with it.
Well, for this podcast, we're going to go back for your career, and it's absolutely amazing what you've in football, especially in Wales as well. You've won the Welsh Premier League title 3 times, twice with TNS, am I right, and once with Bangor?
Yeah, with Bangor 94, 95, and then with TNS in 2005 and 2006, I think it was. Yeah,
and you've won the Welsh Cup twice, you've won Golden Boot twice, you won the Norwegian First Division once. I could go on and on. I mean, you've been the highest goal scorer in all of Europe with 47 goals. This one really surprises me when you're the highest goal scorer in Europe, not because, anyone could put on a record, but it seems to me from what I've looked in, when I dug deep into the research, no one gave you any recognition for it because of the coefficiency of Welsh football, where the ranking is so low that you didn't get recognition that you should have. Were you disappointed that you didn't get any recognition, or were you just happy that you got the goals for that season in 2001 and 2 season?
Yeah, well, it was a bit of both, really. The rules are there from the start of the season. It's like anything, at the start of the season, it hadn't crossed my mind. I think it happened back in 94 when my strike partner, Dave Taylor, he'd won the Golden Boot that year. I think he scored 42 or 43 goals that season. And, there was the media euphoria around that when David won it. And I think that's when they changed the rules, because I think didn't see the Welsh Premier League as a big fish. So they would prefer someone of, Premier League, Spanish League, Italian League, or the Bundesliga. What are the players playing in their competitions to be the prize winner and be the top scorer in Europe? So they changed, as they do with the European rankings with the clubs, obviously going on coefficients, and as I think in my year in 2001, 2, and again in 2004, 5, I think it happened as well. When I was at TNS, I think, if there's someone from Portugal, Brazilian lad from Portugal won it, playing for Sporting Lisbon. So his goals counted 1.5 times mine. I think in 2004, 5, I can't remember who won it that year. Henry or someone, I think, won it that year. That his goals were twice counted, twice as much as mine did. So it's disappointing, but I think, same what happened when Dave Taylor had it, myself. He brought a bit of media profile to the league, which is good, and gave the league some worldwide publicity.
So going on to you with your career, then, you started with Porthmadog. You made roughly in total about 75 appearances, and you scored roughly around about 28 goals, probably if not more. What was it like starting playing football, especially for Porthmadog? Getting your senior career going.
I started, with my village club Llanberis, and Llanfairpwll, prior to signing for Porthmadog. It was, I think, the Cymru Alliance that just started. I think it was 89, 90, something like that. And then I signed for Meilir Owen and Porthmadog then the year after. And, I think a couple of years later, the Welsh Premier League kicked off. And, from probably senior level, national leagues, it would have been Porthmadog I did, start my career with. And I think I was only 19 at the time when the League of Wales started. So it was exciting, but I initially signed for Bangor back in '92, but because initially they wanted more local players, but then as the pre-season came to an end, more of the experienced players from the Northern Premier League came over, and some of the local lads weren't utilised. So then thankful for Marc Owen for coming back in for me, and I signed. I think I missed the first game of the Welsh Premier League. I think that was the only game I missed until I signed for Stockport in '95. And I was grateful for Marc for even though I'd left Porthmadog in the close season, that he was happy and gave me the opportunity to play in the League of Wales at such a young age.
So with because when I'm looking through your record, your senior career, the amount of clubs you played for in Wales, got on from Porthmadog to Bangor City in '94 and '95. This is the first of many times you've gone on to play for Bangor. I remember reading it, and I'm just thinking, God, this man definitely loves Bangor. He definitely loves Bangor. Come on. But then it could be the same with me and Barry. If I was a player, I'd probably never leave Barry alone. But you are, without a doubt, a Bangor City or Bangor legend to the club and to the fans of Bangor. What was it like playing for? Because they said you were born in Bangor, but you grew up in Llanberis. But what was it like playing for Bangor City back in the 90s, or just going back and forth? Around about the times where you were playing for the club?
Yeah, I think, that first season, I think I was a bit sceptical of signing back for them as such, for Nigel Atkins, but, the way Nigel Atkins, sold the club to me and sold his vision of where he wanted to go, where he could see me going. And I think it helped at that time as well that they qualified as champions. They were in Europe, and at that time you had to have so many Welsh-born players playing in European competitions. So it kind of helped me getting into the first team, even though I'd performed, for Porthmadog the previous season, did well, for Mailer that season. So I was more confident in my ability of going, to the champions, and getting a taste of European football, and and that was the carrot, really, European football, and the chance, because of the Welsh-born players they had to utilise, that gave you, take your chance. If to you, then, if you don't take it, then it's your own fault. So, I grasped that opportunity with both hands. And, in those days, I think Bangor were getting, because they were champions, 13, 14, 1,500 people, through the gates every Saturday afternoon, come, whatever weather we had. And, and it was a great atmosphere, and, great to be part of the time successful club. And, I still say to this day that is probably one of the best teams that Welsh Premier League has ever seen.
I agree with you there, because as much as, I'm from the south, and obviously you're from the north and everything, sometimes you get that rivalry, between the north and the south. But when Barry first returned to the Cymru Premier, as it's now called, I didn't care about TNS. I didn't care about the other clubs. All I cared was Bangor. It's that's the club I want us to see play. Because you hear the stories, and because for me personally, I started watching Barry when they were, they were going down, down under, it was all going wrong. But, seeing it climbing back up, and you feel that nostalgia, and seeing, Barry v Bangor, I thought it was amazing. But I want to talk to you as well about the supporters of Bangor City, because when I first went to watch Barry v Bangor, the away support was phenomenal when they came to Jenner Park. But when I came to their ground, which not their ground, it was in Nantporth or something like that, their new one. I feel so sorry for the Bangor supporters. But when I went to their ground and there was not much fans there, I was disappointed. But I wasn't disappointed with the supporters. I think I was disappointed with the club itself. How do you describe back then when the supporters, when you had 1,000 people, or if not more, come in and just chant your name and everything? What was that like for you with the Bangor supporters?
Yeah, you're going on to Nantporth now. I think, because they didn't replicate, you had the terracing behind the goals, the roof, the way the roof was behind Farrow Road, then that and captured the noise. So there's a lot more noise coming out, and the atmosphere was great, and the ground was a bit of a slope going from Farrow Road down towards the other end. So that was, so you get used to playing. But I think Nampod's a lovely facility, but I don't think the club have ever replicated the atmosphere that they had in Farrow Road. I think a lot initially when they won the league. I think the last season they were at Farrow Road, and they were hoping that they could replicate the atmosphere and what they had in Farrow Road, which is a shame that they couldn't do that because it's too open. So there's not enough enclosed spaces within the new stadium. And I know the supporters club tried to raise money and tried to get a terrace in and a roof, and just to get a bit more of an atmosphere and a bit more of a Farrow Road feel to it. And it's a shame that's not happened. But going back to the mid-90s, it was into Cardiff, Cwmbran were the ones down south who were fighting against for the league. Cwmbran won the first year. Then you had into Cardiff. They were decent outfits. I think they finished second or third a couple of years in the run, and Barry came into it then towards the late 90s and early 2000s, and when we're back and forth in playing for Bangor, the Barry Bangor games were good because they were full time at the time. They were entertaining and competitive matches.
Yeah, it was. I always go back. One of my, even though I didn't turn up, one of the matches I always watch in the archives of Barry and everything is the 2002 Welsh Cup final between Bangor and Barry. Yeah, I love it though. It's not because Barry won. It was just because I looked at it, I went, I wanted to be there because you had John Charles who was going to hand the cup over to either Bangor or Barry, but it was just the supporters, the energy, the match itself, it was just phenomenal just to see that happening. I mean, and then seeing Hugh Griffiths score, but I didn't realise Hugh Griffiths scored that goal until, because I didn't even recognise him until I watched the game. It was on a Friday. Yeah, well, he was watching. I watched the game on the Friday. Then the following day, I think we went up away to Kefren Druitt, and I went, "Why does Hugh look familiar?" I went, "Why does he look?" I went, "Oh, he's the guy who scored that goal." Oh, it was amazing. It was just to feel that nostalgia and just see that happening. Towards the coming towards the game and everything. And but I want to talk to you about. When you were with Bangor, of course, you saw a lot of success there with the club and everything. But after your first spell with Bangor, you were transferred to Stockport County. They were in the second division at the time, and you made a few appearances and everything. What was it like to play in a different league instead of being in the League of Wales, as it was called then?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Because growing up as a child, that's the only thing you want to do is be a professional footballer. And I thought my time had gone. I think I'd been on trial to West Brom, at the end of my final season at Porthmadog for a couple of days. And then I'd been to Oldham halfway through that season with Bangor for a couple of weeks. And I think it was Graham Sharp as manager at the time, who incidentally took over Bangor then a couple of years after. But I thought nothing at Oldham. And then it was just sort of deadline, I think it was deadline day in 95, the week before. I was supposed to go to Hereford, but my employers wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't let me have the time off on trial. So, I kicked up a fuss on that one. But then Stockport came in with a firm offer and the contract. So I just went in the following morning and said I'm off, which, to be fair, the guy in charge, I was working at the Welsh office at the time in Carnarvon, and he said, yeah, fine, good luck. So, thankful to him for letting me release me from my employment at that time. But, it was fantastic. It took, because it was the end of the season, it was an ideal time because you had 6 weeks to bed in, get to understand full-time football, full-time life training every day. And then because 3 or 4 of us were new to sort of, you were young lads as well, new into the game, they got us in then over the summer, 3 days over the summer, to improve our strength, cardiovascular fitness and stuff. So, that helped. But because they had, decent strikers at the club, and because I was left-footed, I mainly played for them either as a left winger, left midfield, and towards the end from October onwards, for nearly a full season, I was playing at left back, which I enjoyed. I played a handful of games for the first team at left back, and playing at the bench. I think my first game as left back was at the bench, and it was a bit odd playing first team football in League One as a left back, but I enjoyed my time, and didn't get that opportunity as a striker as I wanted. I was scoring goals when I was playing as a striker for the reserves, but because of Alan Armstrong had a good career in the Premier League and the Championship, Ian Hellwell, Andy Mutch came in, Honnold, Andy Mutch and Steve Bull's partnership at Wolves, so there was experienced players there, and it was hard to break in that team as a striker. Eddie Mike came in from Manchester City, so they seen him more as a left-sided midfielder, winger, stroke left back. So again, it's opinions of managers, and Dave Jones, the ex-Scottish manager, was the manager at the time, and I'm grateful he gave me my professional debut, and things didn't work out for one reason or another there, and you just got to move on. But I enjoyed my time as a professional footballer. Didn't achieve what I as much as I did in the Welsh Premier League, but at the end of the day, I think that's probably what your level is.
Yeah. Well, when you went on loan there and you found success in Norway when you went to Haugesund, how did that transpire then? How did the loan move sort of came to fruition then? How did the process go, and what was your experience like in Norway?
I came out the blue. I think I had a phone call. I think it was off Dave Jones, or the assistant manager, saying that you fancy going on loan to Norway as a striker. So I thought, over the summer. So I thought I was out of contract anyway, end of that season, and I thought, I might as well give it a go. And they said, we'll give you a contract and you come back. So I thought, they must see something in you. So, obviously went over, I think it was beginning of May, and it was culture shock. With not so much the country, because you've been brought up in Wales and, quite rural. The transport links where you had to get a plane, ferry, car, bus, nothing was quite straightforward going there, but it was just, things didn't quite, go to plan there, but because again, I came in there and the striker was just scoring goals, because the top of the league scoring goals, and, it is hard to break into teams who are successful, and but again, it's experience. The experience held me in good stead, and again, the contract I had from Stockport wasn't the best when I come back, and shook hands and I left, and and that's it. I thought couldn't get another club. Went on trials a couple of places, but couldn't get a club, so I thought that's it. Professional career over, and then went back to Bangor.
Yeah, because there was two clubs it was in 1996. I know you had a couple of games with was it Altrincham, and then there was Colwyn Bay.
Yeah.
And funny enough with Colwyn Bay, because they're now back in the Welsh League. But what was your opinion though on the matter with Colwyn Bay being in the English League at the time, and especially now that they're back in the Welsh League?
Yeah, I think funnily enough, I think I'd gone to Altrincham. I think I played for a month for Bangor and I went to Altrincham because I lived in Manchester at the time, and things didn't work out at Altrincham. I was there for a month, so I thought, forget this. So I was thinking of packing up football, and then my mate said, well, why didn't you come and play for us on a Sunday morning? So I just enjoy football, and so I don't think I'd played for about a month until Colwyn Bay came in. But I started enjoying football again, playing Sunday mornings, scoring goals, and just having fun. And, Bryn Jones phoned me, do you want to time we're in the FA Cup, we got Wrexham in the FA Cup, great place for you to showcase your talent. And, I played for Colwyn Bay, for about 3 or 4 months. But then at that time, you could sign second forms. for another club. So Colwyn Bay, I think there was at the time I don't think there was a Conference North, so the next step was the Conference. So because I think Merthyr were in the Conference at the time, it was so the next step was the Conference of the Northern Premier. So there wasn't that much of a leap for Colwyn Bay to get up towards the Football League. There's only 2 divisions, where now, where they were probably 3 or 4 divisions before they got to League 2, so a much harder task. So, I am glad in a way that, they have come back last year. They've done well, they've got a, fantastic facility. And, I just wish Merthyr would follow suit, because I think Merthyr would be, a very good addition to the Cymru leagues, and, with the history and also, the facilities they got there at Pen Park.
So after Colwyn Bay, you returned to Bangor City. Don't know how many times.
I nearly signed for Carnarvon.
Oh, I nearly signed.
I think I was at Colwyn Bay, and because you could sign 2 forms, so I could sign for another club in Wales. So Carnarvon came in for me and asked if I wanted to sign for them, and I think we were arguing over a tenner, because I was travelling from Manchester. I was like, I need another, and then Bangor got wind of it. They offered me, and then the first game for Bangor was at Carnarvon on midweek.
Okay.
So I think I scored 4 that night.
So describe to me? Sorry to cut you off there. Really cut people off then, but I really want to know, what is the rivalry like between Bangor and Carnarvon? It must be tense. It must be, somewhat toxic if you get the different, Carnarvon supporters and Bangor supporters in one ground. I mean, explain to me what it's like to have those 2 teams play against each other.
Yeah, it's quite feisty. I think the supporters get up for it as well. I think, back in the 80s, when they were playing to the Northern Premier League, there were a few scuffles, I think, on the terraces and, in the streets and stuff. But, during the Welsh Premier League games, there were, great games, great atmosphere. I remember Carnarvon fans chucking chips at you from behind the goal. And, because I lived, if you look at it, in between Carnarvon and Bangor, Carnarvon being more a Welsh-speaking town, and from a group of friends, that's where we used to go drinking on a Saturday night in Carnarvon. So it was, you used to still get some stick, the weekend as well. But they were great games, and because you knew a lot of the Carnarvon people anyway, because you were going out there on weekends, it wasn't too bad. But the rivalry, was great. I think I remember Boxing Day games, and were fantastic. To play, and I'm glad to see that they are, doing well again, and it's good for the area that there is a club in the Welsh Premier League doing well this year. So,
with your a couple of years spell with Bangor City, I think it was in 96 and 98. You moved on then to Halifax, then, if that's right. You spent roughly a season there, and then you got on to York City. Now I'm looking at York City, right? And it says on the information I was getting, I was trying so much just to get so much stuff before not cocking up or anything, but it said that you went York City in 1999, and I went, okay. Then it said York City again, 99 to 2000. What was happening in the late 90s? What was happening in 1999? Did you sign a contract that was only a couple of months?
No, I don't think that's. I think I went to Halifax again. I left Bangor. I think most of the squad left. I think we won the Welsh Cup against Connors Key on penalties, and then there was an issue in terms of bonuses, or they weren't giving us the bonuses that they were promised if we went into Europe. So I think every player but one who was at university left the club. Graham Sharp left, the manager. So I just, because I was in Manchester, I just phoned up a few clubs on there asking for a trial, and Halifax just gone up from the conference. They come up 20 minutes down the road, so in pre-season with them, scored a few goals for the reserves, and signed. So I think when York bought me, I think again not far from deadline day in March, and I signed a 3.5-year contract. So I don't know where they've had a spell just for. I think a lot of people thought it was a loan till the end of the season and then a contract. But no, I think there was no loan deal. It was straightforward transfer to York. And again, unfortunate, change of manager halfway through the contract, and people got different philosophies, different opinions about they want to play, and I didn't fit into the new manager's style of play. And I don't think I played from about February, March till about the following December. So it was a bit strange training every day, but just playing the odd game here and there for the reserves.
So you returned to Bangor again, probably for the third time. It was in the early 2000s, so 2000 to 2002, and I already mentioned the 2002 Welsh Cup final. A lot of people say it was the best time for you as a player because you scored more goals than you made appearances. I think if I got it right, it's like 50 appearances and then scoring 68 goals, or probably a lot more if you add in the Welsh Cups, the Cup tournaments, etc. Going back into your third spell with Bangor, would you say that's the best time for you, or would you say a few years later down the line with TNS, or going back a few years, was the best time for you? Well, what would you say was the best time for you as a player?
I think that season, you've got to say it was that season. When I came back, I came back around with the Christmas time, January time. Again, because I hadn't played for a few months, took time to bed in. And once I got going again, I think I scored about 520 goals back end of that season. And then, to keep Bangor up in the league, because, they were in relegation zone when I got there. And, we dragged ourselves out. We had Roderick Giggs playing, we had Wes Brown playing, for us. We had good players playing, but we weren't winning any games. And I think, as soon as we start winning one or two, we're on a run, and, we stayed up. And then Peter Davenport came in as a manager, and, he brought a few players in, Simon Davis for one, Phil Priestley, keeper, Hugh signed, Swansea manager, Coops, he was already there, so we had, and I know Whitesider Jones is coming up as, young 16-year-old, so, we had a good nucleus of players. And I think when I've been successful in scoring goals, I think the managers, has played an attacking formation, with Nigel Atkinson, 4-4-2, same with Graham Sharp, same with Peter Davenport, and, and I've been fortunate enough to have good strike partners as well, Frank Mottram, in the 94, 95, Ken McKenna, 97, 98, and then, I think the best of the lot, Paul Roberts, in that season, did so much, as a strike partner, and, got to be grateful. And, the service you were getting from the flanks was unbelievable. I know you got to put the chances away as well, but, as a striker, the first time on, if balls aren't came into the box, and, they weren't shy came into the box, to be fair. So, I've been fortunate enough to have played with good players that have been putting, decent service into the striker.
You know what? I have to say this now, because I keep saying this, when I look into the research and everything, you have played international football for Wales B, but for the life of me, why? I mean, even when Bobby Gould was Wales manager, and he called up Gary Lloyd when Gary was playing for Barry Town, but how did you not get a call up for Wales? I mean, if I was manager, I would have picked you straight away. I don't care what league it is. If you're scoring the goals and you're doing it, I've gone, no, pick him. I mean, you're one of those players who's got the it factor to go and represent Wales at senior level, and could probably, hopefully, even if it was just like 5 caps or less, to go and score goals. So I mean, did you ever get a call up? Not like a call up for Wales, but was there any consideration for you to play for Wales in senior level, or was you like a favourite? Was there any rumours? I mean, was there anything at all?
No, I think growing up, that's if you want to play for your country and be international, as a senior international. Simon Davis played, was off Peter Brill, went to Tottenham and Fulham. Rob Page was playing, in our squad. Gary Lloyd was in our squad as well. from Barry. I think he's the only one in our squad that was not with a Football League club. You know, I was at a Football League club in League Two at the time at Halifax. You know, we had Kurt Nogan, who was Welsh, who was banging the goals in at Preston at League One. They were top of League One. You had Craig Bellamy at Norwich. You had Iwan Roberts at Norwich. I think Mark Hughes was still playing at the time. Dean Saunders. You know, so you had players, you know, that calibre. And I'm just, you know, Nathan Blake, you just mentioning, you know, those names. And as a striker, you know, in the 90s, you know, it's hard to get in, you know, any Welsh team, I'd imagine, no matter who you were. But no, I never, you know, you dream of playing for your country. But, you know, I was so chuffed of, you know, starting that Welsh B game against Northern Ireland at the racecourse and, you know, won that game. I think it was Evan Williams. He was another one from Barry that was in the squad. And, you know, Evan did well, scored. And, you know, he got called up for the senior squad, which was fantastic. And, you know, again, you know, it's not something that you look back on and say, should have done this, should have done that. You know, nature takes the scores. And, you know, if it would have happened, it'd been brilliant. But, you know, you got to look at who's in front of you as well in that queue and pecking order to get into that team.
Yeah. I saw the other strikers. I still pick you, man. No, but look at the rest. I don't care. So with that in mind, 2000 to 2002, scoring 68 goals. You scored 47 in the one season, which was a European record. I know we mentioned that in the beginning. And like you said, you know, you got the bigger leagues as well that get more recognition. You went to Southport for a bit, then you came back to Bangor. I bet you it's like when you come back, I bet you some of the locals are going, "Oh, where'd you go this time? Really? Oh, okay. Oh, come on then. You know, it's still fun to see, you know, former players coming back, you know, and, you know, still doing the job, you know, and especially you, because I'm looking at this now. There's no way the defenders and goalkeepers are going to stop you from scoring the goals. You come in and you score the goals, pick up a paycheck or whatever, and just help the team get where they are. And that's it. And that's amazing. And I see Aberystwyth on your list of careers where you played for. But I want to talk about the next club, which is TNS. And TNS, you won the Welsh Premier League twice with them. You know, and they're not as the same TNS as we know today. However, you know, there's some memories here for you, Mark, because not only that you've been champions for TNS twice, but you've also played against the champions of Europe, which was Liverpool. You know, and a lot of people don't. It's amazing how with TNS, they played so many clubs in Europe, and a lot of people seem to forget about the Liverpool one, which it should be on the top of the list. But what was that like for you to play against, you know, Steven Gerrard, Djibril Cissé, Jamie Carragher, Xabi Alonso, all those players, you know, for TNS? What was that like for you?
Well, the first game was very disheartening because, you know, we were playing at Anfield and, you know, I didn't get on at all. I was on a bench and I was a bit peed off, to be fair, with Ken McKenna. I told him that the following day. But, you know, because I thought, you know, I scored, you know, TNS got me into to win the league as a goal scorer because, you know, Barry had been winning the league. Rhyl had won it the year before. You know, they struggled for goals and, you know, I came in, you know, I think I signed August, but didn't start a game, I don't think, until September. And didn't sign until September on a contract. And then because he scored, you know, 34 goals that season, you know, won the league. And I thought, you know, I know, you know, football's not on what's gone on in the past and loyalties and stuff, but I thought because I would have at least got on that pitch on that night, being a Liverpool fan as well. And I know you don't take into account you're just a Liverpool fan, put him on, that kind of thing, but you know, just what I'd done for the club that, you know, that previous year. But, you know, there's no sentiment in football, and I've learned that over the years. And, you know, you are a bit peed off. And again, you know, I didn't start the second leg over at the race course, and I think I played about half an hour. Scored that game, but it was disallowed for offside. I still haven't seen the replay. Still haven't seen the goal on telly. By all accounts, I wasn't offside, but again, there's no Russian linesman or no VAR. you know, in those days. So, you know, it's great to be involved, you know, in games, you know, against Liverpool, who were champions of Europe at the time, and obviously the team you supported from an early age. But you know, to train at Anfield the night before was brilliant. You know, the atmosphere was fantastic. But you know, I'll still never forget that time where, you know, he sat on the bench itching to get on, and you know, he don't get on, and you know, that'll still hurt, you know, till the day I die.
Have you got any funny? Because normally with football clubs, especially in Wales, you know, you go to the clubhouse and you have a drink or you have something to eat, anything. But do you remember anything at all? Whatever game it was, I know the TNS couldn't play at Park Hall; they had to play at the racecourse ground. But did you ever meet Gerard, Carragher, Alonso, any of those boys after the games, or
no?
Did you get the opportunity?
No, I think I talked to most of them while he was warming up in both games. And I think Gerard was sub for the second game. And I think Rafa Benitez was a bit miffed because he was expecting him to beat us more comfortably in the first leg. I think it was 2-0 to the last minute, and Gerard scored his hat-trick goal towards the last minute, and because they were supposed to be going on a pre-season tour and he was going to play the fringe players then, and you know, in the second leg, but because of the scoreline, he had to bring them all back. So, you know, but he talked to him, you know, just on the sidelines and stuff. But because we had a lot of players from the Liverpool area who knew Carragher, Gerrard, you know, with Stephen Becker played for Everton, so he'd grown up, you know, same era, roughly the same age. So, you know, another one or two lived and knew who they were. So, no, again, that's that. Do you know what I mean? But you know, I think I got Milan Barros' shirt and Steve Finnan's, I think, up in a loft somewhere. You know, swapping shirts that day. Well, at least those two got a European Cup, you know, Champions League winners medal. So,
so with TNS, you scored 68 goals and made 60 appearances. Wow, you know, I mean, scoring goals for fun. I mean, did it ever get boring? Most of the times, like you're scoring goals and you're thinking, "Oh, this is easy. Just give me more money. I'll give you 1,000 goals if you want." You know. So.
No, you know, it never gets boring. You just want to score. You know, more and more. But as a striker, you've got to have the service as well. You know, so and every striker will tell you. But you know, I got a good tip off Dave Jones when I was at Stockport when I first signed. You know, he said you can't afford to take that extra touch sometimes in the box. And then, you know, not a bad point, because I remember Tony Pennock, the goal I scored, you know, that won TNS the league the first time in 2005, and he said, I was expecting to take another touch here, and because I hit the first time, you know, and that thing said no. So, you know, little tips like that, and you know, in my head, the dimensions of the football pitch don't change from one pitch to the other. You know, the penalty box is the same size, the goals the same size, whether you play at Jenner Park, whether you play at Farrow Road, whether you play the Oval, you know, at Park Hall, you know, it was a Park Hall then, it was in Llansan, you know, whatever pitch you play on, the penalty area is the same dimensions, the goal size is the same. So if you have an idea of where you are in and around the penalty box, you know, those dimensions and size of the goals don't change, and that's what I had in my head, you know, pitch geography.
Yeah. Do you know, with TNS now, first time in a long time now, they've not achieved a Cymru Premier or Welsh Premier League title. Connah's Quay have won it. Obviously, the way it's finished, the way it's concluded, you know, with this current circumstances, you know, I mean, if this podcast here now, if we didn't have this pandemic or, you know, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, and everything, maybe possibly, I mean, I could be more than happy to go and travel to where you are and have this podcast. But for saying that though, with Connah's Quay winning the title, do you think yourself, I mean, having played for TNS, who have gone on a winning streak of titles and everything, do you think you yourself, because you've wrote it in columns there, do you think it's a breath of fresh air to see Connah's Quay being champions instead of being TNS or even Barry, that matter?
Yeah, I think Bangor, I think, was the last team to win it early on this decade and the previous decade. So I think it is a breath of fresh air that there is a new team. I know Mike Harris is on Twitter saying, there's an asterisk by this. He called it the COVID Cup, but I think there were 4 points clear, 5 or 6 games to go. I do a lot of games for Scoria, BBC, and they were very strong up for Connah's Quay this year, and I think they only lost 2 games, all season. And Andy Morrison's got a tremendous team spirit there. Good staff, behind him, and to me they were deserved champions. And no, Mike Harris won't thank me for this, but it is good, and you need competition. Bala were up there pushing as well, so the squads are strengthening now. It's just a shame that it wasn't played out on the field. That I think that game at Park Hall, TNS v Connah's Quay, would have been a fantastic game. But even if Connah's Quay had have lost that, they still would have been a point ahead of TNS if they would have won their remaining games. So there would have been a lot of twists and turns, I'm not saying, but at that stage of the season they both played the same number of games. Connah's Quay were 4 points clear. There's no other way of doing it. At the time, due to Welsh government guidelines. So take my hat off to to Andy Morrison for job he's done there over the past few years since he took over. I think they were not far off relegation fodder at the time, and they've been in Europe every season. Got him into Europe last season, and he's done it ever since. And I'm surprised that no one's picked him up, for his experience, the way he goes about doing his job from a football league club.
Do you know what? It was funny though, because when Wrexham needed a new manager, I think Sam Ricketts left. I think it was Sam Ricketts, or it could have been before him. But Wrexham were looking into Welsh League managers, and the top 3 managers that were favourites to take over Wrexham were Gavin Chesterfield, Andy Morrison, and I think it was Scott Rusko as well, just to take over the job. But it is surprising though, because I mean a lot of us, it was not just in Barry. I think speaking to a few fans in various clubs, they were saying, "Oh, Andy's going to get it. Andy Morrison's going to get it." There is no way that man could be overlooked, and he did, but he was overlooked. But he stayed, and he's given Connah's Quay their first Cymru Premier title, or Welsh Premier League title, whatever you want to call it. He beat Kilmarnock, and that was a shocking half. I remember watching that, and I just couldn't stop laughing because there was that funny. Have you seen that video where it was just like this Scottish Kilmarnock fan? He's recording it and he's going, "Oh no, and I even booked Belgrade for this. Oh my god!" And it's like, well, you're gonna have to jump on the flight with Andy and all the Connah's Quay boys, because that was absolutely funny just to see that happen. But it is great to see what Andy Morrison has done. I think not just for Connah's Quay, but just for Welsh football as well. He's come in and gone, leave this with me, and he's given us a breath of fresh air just to experience something new and exciting.
Yeah, I think he came in as assistant manager to Andy Priest at Airbus, and I think he was a bit reserved to what he was, what he is now as a manager, because once you take over the club yourself, you put your own stamp on it, and and he has been a breath of fresh air. Up in the gantry, you hear him, and and he's quite straightforward in his interviews. There's no back, and he wants us to. He was a winner. I played against Andy, when he was at Man City, and he's a winner as a player, and he's a winner as a manager, and his testament to what he's done there. I think in terms of Welsh becoming a Premier League managers moving up, I think again it's the the kudos of the league. A lot of people, it's got to get across that the league is a good league, and I think they need more opportunities. Managers, if they are successful, Craig left TNS to go to Hartlepool in difficult circumstances. They weren't financially sound at the time. Unfortunately for Craig, he paid the price, for that, and I think people might look at that. Craig Harrison gone from there to Hartlepool, not successful. We've made redundant from there. So, you're looking at it and going, do we take a chance?
Yeah.
So but I think, so like what Andy Morrison's done, being Kilmarnock, gone to Scottish Ryan Brew Cup final, won the league against all the odds, for Connors Key. Scottish has done a tremendous job at TNS, taking off from Craig, Colin Caton at Bala. You mentioned Gavin Chesterfield. There are, great up-and-coming managers in the Cymru Premier, and, the longer they stay in our league, the better it'll be for us.
Yeah. Do you ever consider yourself going into management, or are you just happy to being, writing columns and just being a sports journalist and just watching the game in the stands? Well,
I manage the Welsh schools under 18s and Welsh colleges under 19, so I am, and with my job in college, then I do the college team as well. So I do dip my foot in the water at a youth level with management, but I enjoy the work I do for the media with BBC and Scoria, and I'd rather just pick up a microphone every game rather than having to do training 2-3 times a week. Players phoning, I'm injured, or got to try and sign players. But in time maybe. But at this moment in time, I like give my opinion and having a bit of fun along the way, interviewing managers after games.
Yeah, so then like this, what I'm doing now, just doing podcasts or just interviewing people and just loving it, loving what they're saying, and giving your opinions and asking questions then, and just staying in the stands. I mean, I never do that as well. So, but it's just amazing. It's like I'm always grateful when I'm doing these podcasts. I'm always nervous when I ask people, asking guests to come on the show. It's like, I mean, I was nervous. I was shaking, just typing. I'm saying, hey, do you want to come on the show? I mean, I've not got the finance or anything, but it's like if you can't ask, you won't get. So it's one of those things, and that's why I'm always been grateful just to have you on the show and just talking about your playing career. And talk about your past experience playing for these clubs and creating success, being one of the the greatest Welsh Premier League players of all time, so going back to me in my journalist mode, you left TNS to go back to Bangor. I think it was the fifth and final time. This is sort of a double question. Did you expect to retire at Bangor City, and did you think that your fifth spell with Bangor City was going to be the last time you're going to play for them?
Probably, yeah. I think it was Steve Blease still was the manager at the time, and he wanted me to be his assistant the following season, but not play. And I said, no, I want to carry on playing. And then my contract was up as a player, and then he left. So Neville Powell took over. And then I think I went to Newtown. I went to Newtown after that. And then I had, 6 months at Newtown before going to Rhyl. And not the best move if you're a Bangor fan, going from signing for Rhyl. But
it's funny though, because with the North Wales derbies, you got Bangor, Carnarvon, Rhyl. If you want to have Prestatyn, go on and have Prestatyn. But I mean, would Bangor City fans feel betrayed if you went to Rhyl or gone to Carnarvon? Or which one would it have been?
I think it'd be worse if you went to Carnarvon.
Okay.
Than Rhyl, because of distance, I think it's 8 or 9 miles between both, where Ryl's about 35 miles down the coast. I went back to Bangor with Rhyl and scored a couple, and still had a good reception when I went back. But I think Carnarvon is the main rival rather than Rhyl. It's sad to see what's happened to them, this season as well. But again, you should go back. He's got good reception every time I went back with any club playing against Bangor, which was nice to see.
After Rhyl, you went back to Porthmadog. What was that like for you to go back to the club that you roughly first started at then?
Yeah, it was good because I knew the manager, Craig Whelan, and he asked me because I wasn't playing at Rhyl, and he said, "Fancy coming here?" So I said, "Yeah." So I went there, and again, I enjoyed the football. I enjoyed that season, and again, I scored I think about 27, 28 goals that season. and I think we got 35, 36 then. So, you know, probably like an Indian summer of your career. And, you know, I went to Airbus the following season, because of the travelling from where I live in Crewe to Porthmadog was, a lot to do. And, you know, went to Airbus, and I think end of last season the league split, and, you know, they wanted to keep me on, but then on reduced terms. And I said, oh, no, I can't do that. So, you know, that's when it was. I literally then got, you know, BBC came calling, you know, part-time work for the BBC on a Saturday, and I thought, you know, this could be the way forward rather than playing football. Andy Cale, who was at TNS then, asked me to sign as cover for Newtown, and I went back there and played a handful of games, you know, on a Friday, Sunday, midweek games when available for them, and, you know, that was it then. That was my Welsh Premier League career over, and I just went back to Llanberis then and played, you know, helped them out back home, and played, you know, local football, and just to, again, start the season and end of the season when we had to load the games midweeks. So that's how it all ended.
With Llanberis then, with Llanberis, what was that like for you to sort of like a fairy tale ending, you know, just to go home and finish off with your career with Llanberis and just feel like, you know what, I had a good run, and finishing off with Llanberis, that must have been sort of emotional for you, and, you know, sort of personal for you, because, you know, you're finishing off where you know, where you grew up, and you're playing for your local team, really.
Yeah, you finish off playing with players I started off playing with, you know, and, you know, I went back there with Newtown in the Welsh Cup, you know, 5 or 6 years before that. So it was, I've been back once, you know, plus, you know, and it was nice, you know, just to finish off there and, you know, to give something back to the club that all kicked it off for me.
So a couple of final questions here for you then, Mark. So going on to Bangor City, but then we've got the supporters with Bangor 1876, I think they're called. What is your take on the situation that the supporters have split from Bangor City and now have gone on to form this new and promising club, you know, with Bangor City?
Yeah, it's a shame. You know, it's a shame that it's happened. You know, I don't know the ins and outs of what was going on, you know, at Bangor City at the time, and, you know, I don't want to get into all the, you know, political stuff regarding it. You know, it's a shame that, you know, there has been a divide. It's a shame that they couldn't work together with the new owners, but I think they were a bit cheesed off with the previous owners, and, you know, they made the choice, they made the decision, and good luck to them. You know, obviously, I haven't been to watch either Bangor City or 1876 last season, so, you know, it's good that, you know, there is competition in the city, and, you know, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time they might be both in the same league, and that could be very interesting.
You know what, I'd go just to see that happen.
But I think, you know, Bangor got the stadium, 1876 haven't. So, you know, again, there's a lot of work that needs to go into the 1876, which they are doing, into sort of raising, you know, the club up to I think the aim is to come to the Premier, and, you know, good luck to them trying to get there.
With that in mind, how would you, in your opinion, what do you think should be the next step for Cymru Premier in order to improve?
I think that there's no better time now to move to summer football within this pandemic. I would now not start this new season until next February, and play the full season, February or March to October, November. As then the teams in Europe then are halfway through the season, they're not playing European games in pre-season, you know, the full throttle, and it'll give a better chance of progressing through the European rounds. We've seen, you know, Konski did last year, you know, we had the odd club doing it every other year, but we need someone to get closer to that, you know, the group stages of the Europa League, And, I think, playing through the summer, it's shown in Ireland, Southern Ireland, that, I think Dundalk have done it. I think Shelbourne or Shamrock Rovers done it, got into the group stages of the Europa League, and, the money he brings in, the kudos to the league, the coefficient ranking goes up, so you're better off, the following seasons. And, I know you've got to nominate clubs for European football, for the following season, but I think, all football in Wales has stopped, now grassroots, and, have a little mini leagues or mini tournaments going up to, when football is safe to return back in, say, for example, September to November, December, have a couple of months off, and then every league throughout Wales then starts February, March, and goes through the summer. So then I think the issues are, what about the knock-on effect on Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5? But if everyone now has had to stop because of the pandemic, I think there's no better chance now to move football in Wales to the summer period, and you probably get better crowds through the summer with people taking families, longer nights, Football League clubs, Premier League clubs not playing, and you will, I think, at the end of the day, European progress would be better, and you might get players then coming in on loan from Football League and Premier League clubs to get the experience.
Final question now for you then, Mark. How would you describe your career then, in a sentence or just in a couple of words then for you?
Journeyman. I think I've clocked up a few miles, especially in Wales. I know a number of clubs I've had. But no, it's been, I would never change. What I've had as a career as a footballer has been fantastic. Ups and downs, and that's part and parcel of life. And being a footballer, whatever level you're at, you can have your ups, you can have your downs, and as long as you learn from those experiences, then it makes you a better player and person. And as long as if you can pass on your experiences then to other people, then hopefully they'll become better players.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining the Dragon's Voice podcast. It really means a lot for you to come on and just talk about your stories and your journey as a footballer, and being one of the biggest names in Welsh football. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem.
Right, cheers. Thank you very much. And guys, thank you so much for watching the Dragon's Voice podcast. I've been your host, Rhyl, and thank you again, Mark, for coming on the show. And we'll see you all very soon.